Well, hello everyone and welcome to a new video. As some of you might know, I've been to SmashingCon conference in Freiburg, Germany in 2018, and I attended this really cool JavaScript animation workshop by Zeb Lee. If you don't know him, go check out his web and Twitter page. It's really cool. And if you have the chance to attend one of his workshops or see him on a conference, go there. It's really a lot of fun. And yeah, I just wanted to share a bit of what I learned with you because I think this kind of stuff is really fun. So what we're going to do in this video is yeah, basically create a canvas and build these really cool particle effects using JavaScript. So let's get started. Alrighty, so what we need is a little bit of preparation. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up my terminal. And I'm in a completely empty directory right now, as you can see. Actually, let me make this stuff a little bigger so you can see what's going on. And yeah, I'm going to npm init and give it a, what should I call this? Particles, I guess. And the rest I'm going to leave empty. And npm is going to initialize my project for me. So all I have right now is just a package.json file. And I'm going to install one package, which I find really handy. Actually, I already have installed it. It's called reload. So if you don't have it, you can install it like this, npm install. Actually, let me close this one, npm install reload -g. So I have already installed it globally. And what this does is it will fire up a quick web server for you. And the really handy part of this is that it will automatically reload your website whenever you do a change to your code. So I've already done this. What we also need is an index.html file. We need a CSS file and a scripts file. That's it. And the HTML is not going to be anything spectacular or special. It's just a regular HTML with a head and a body. And we're going to give this a title, particles. We're going to include our CSS, which is main.css. And we're also going to include our JavaScript. All right. Now, the first thing we need to actually get started painting is a canvas. Now, canvas is an element which you can use to draw all kinds of stuff in HTML. You can draw, I know, rectangles, circles, lines, whatever you want. So that's basically our drawing board. In our CSS, we need a little bit of reset code. So what I usually do is, if I don't import something like normalize or so, I just go reset everything like this. And I also want this to be full width and height. Alrighty. Now we can already fire up our, I don't think we need that, yeah. Now we can already fire up our service. So I'm going to do reload -b and fires this up. Just going to open this in my Chrome browser here. Okay. And now we should give this a color, like a background color. Let's go for black for the moment. Okay, see, this is our canvas. And yeah, let's head into our script. Now this is a little bit too small. Usually what you would probably try to do is increase the width and the height of this in CSS. Now in this case, don't do it, because if you do it, all your content in your canvas will be very blurry. So you don't want that. And instead, you want to go, first you want to get the canvas. So document.get element by ID, canvas. And you want to set the width to the window. Whoops, window.inner width. And canvas.height equals window.inner height. Like this. It says canvas is not defined. Why is it not defined? Oh yeah, this needs to be a string. Oops. Save it. All right, now we have our canvas in full screen, but we still get our these weird scroll bars here. We don't want these. So what I'm simply going to do is I set overlay hidden on the HTML body tag, and now they're gone. So that's good. So another thing we need is the so-called context. Now the context is used to actually draw elements on the canvas, and you can get it by simply calling get context, and we want 2D context. All right. Next thing we define is an array, which we call particles. So we're going to store all our particles later in this array. And now here is a really important function, which is called window.request animation frame, this one. And this is already built into your browser, and it will be called every time the browser draws a new frame. Now back in the days, instead of this function, we've been using a set interval, something like this, and we would we would draw something, and we would probably call it like every 16 milliseconds or so to get a smooth frame rate, and then with this function we would do our code. Now this still works, but it's not very efficient, so better use a request animation frame, which is already built into most up-to-date browsers. And we're going to define a function called draw. All right, so the browser will call the function draw every time it thinks it would be a good time to redraw the screen. And this will basically lead to the animation. The first function we need to actually draw something is context.fill rect, which draws a rectangular object. And we can give it an x coordinate. So let's say we start at 10 pixels. We can give it a y coordinate, which can also be 10 pixels. We can give it a size, like the width of it. For the moment, we're also going to be 10, and the height. All right, so I'm going to save this. Now we don't see anything yet on the left side. And that's because we haven't given this thing a color. So what we need to do is context.fill style equals, let's say, I don't know, red. So that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Oh yeah, just a minor typo. So there we go. Now we have drawn our first object into our canvas. Now we want this to move, right? In order to move this thing, we are going to use a for loop. But before we define our loop, we have to fill in our array of particles. So we're going to generate like a lot of JavaScript objects, and each of these objects will represent a particle, and we're going to use a for loop to animate each of these particles. So let's define a particle. And a particle typically has an x-coordinate. So this is basically the horizontal position where it needs to start. In this case, you want to start it in the center. Okay, so we're going to use the canvas divided by 2. And the same for the y coordinate. So this will make the animation start in the center. Then we need to define how fast the animation is going to be. So we're going to define the velocity, and in this case the x velocity. So it's going to, the speed is, it's going to move in the horizontal direction. And we're going to use just a random number for this, and the same for the y acceleration. And size-wise, I'm gonna go for 7 pixels. Yeah. So next, we're gonna push our new particle into our array. Whoops. All right. And then we have to draw it. So we're gonna loop through all our particles. Oops. And we're gonna get each particle. And then draw it. So instead of using these random values, I'm just going to use the numbers we've just defined. So for each particle, I'm going to use the x position, I'm going to use the y position, the size, and the same for the height. So this is the width, and this is the height of our element. All right, so save it. So there's not much going on yet, but at least we have our element in the center. Now, in order to move this thing, we have to change its position every time we draw. So I'm gonna add to the x position its velocity. So let's try that. So there's not much going on yet, but oh yeah, the reason for this is every time this window.request animation calls the draw function, we have to call it again. All right, so I'm just gonna copy this and paste it here. And now it should do it right. So now it's moving our element in the x direction because we're changing the x coordinate of the particle. But this is a line, right? It's not a particle. And the reason why this is not working properly is every time we've drawn the element, we have to clear the canvas. Now, in order to do that, we just need one line of code. So we do context.clear rect, and we're gonna delete everything from the canvas. So this is going to start at the 0 position, which is in the top left, and it's going to go to the bottom right. Okay, so it's going to remove everything on the screen. Save it. What's going on? Oh, there's an error. Context.clear rect is not a function. Oh, it's rect, not react. So now you can see already a difference. It's not quite what we want yet. And the reason for this is, actually I'm not sure why this is happening. Well, actually this is alright. You will see later. So what's going on now is we're creating so many particles that it looks like a straight line. So there are like hundreds and thousands of particles going on in this line. But we're going to start moving these now, and we will see how different it looks like. So in order to do that, we also change the Y direction. So let's see what's seen now that we're going somewhere. So now all the particles are spreading out in all kinds of directions and they're not on a straight line anymore. Alrighty, so these are a lot of particles, and the problem here is that we might run into a memory leak, because once the particles are out of the canvas, we don't need them anymore, right? So what we can do is if particles.length, if it's like, I don't know, if we have more than 100 particles, we're gonna remove the oldest particle from our array. So yeah, see, now these get deleted a little earlier. So this is maybe a little too early. Let's go for 300. Yeah, that's better. So now we have all red particles, and you can play around with this a lot now. For example, you can, what should we do? We can change the color. Yeah, let's change the color. So instead of red, we can use an RGB value, right? RGB. And so let's say, I don't know, 100, 250. Save it. What's going on now? This is weird. It doesn't need to be RGBA. No, that's not it. Maybe it doesn't like the string padding. There we go. So now it's green. And what we can also do is we can randomly change those values. So what we need is a color value between 0 and 255 for each of these RGB values. And in order to do that, we can create a quick helper function, and I'm going to call this random. And I wanted to create a random number between two other values. So we're going to set this later to 0 and 255. And creating such a value is quite easy. All you have to do is call math.random and then do the max minus the minimum and it back the, which one was it? I think the minimum. So let's just call our random function in here. Come on, what's man, German keyboards are the worst. Alright, so a random value between 0 and 255. Same here. Same here. Now it doesn't like the string padding, huh? That's weird. Let's see what we get here. Oh, it's not a number. Return math.random needs to be a function call. There we go. Now this is this is maybe a little too much. So yeah, I think we shouldn't keep changing the color all the time. We're just gonna define one color at the beginning, oops, color, and set this to the random, okay? So whenever the function draw is called, we're going to create a random color for this, but the particle is going to stay in this color, right? So when I save it, yeah, that's way better. Alrighty. So now for some reason it starts a little stuttering. I think there's something to do with the console. So save this and remove it. Yeah, so that's better. And actually performance-wise, this is going to run really good because all canvas calls are rendered in hardware. So even if you have a lot of elements and big ones and complicated drawings, you can rely on the GPU taking care of this. So yeah, you can play around with this for a while if you want to. You can do all kinds of funky stuff with this. So let's say, I don't know, I'm gonna multiply this with 1.1 and see what happens. Not much. So let's multiply it by 2. So see, this way you can change the direction of the elements. It's now gonna move a little more to the right. Can reduce this. See, now it's more going in a straight line. If you want, you can have different sizes. Let's say I'm going to create elements the size of between 1 and 5. Let me actually remove this again so we can see a little bit better what's going on. See, maybe that's a little let's say between 1 and 1 and 10. See, so now we're getting this kind of effect. And yeah, just take the code, play around with it if you want. I'm going to upload it on my GitHub website. You can find it at github.com/valnub. And I'm going to upload it there. And yeah, I thought it would be really cool if you play around with this, and if you can come up with any kind of really cool animation that you would like to share, just post it in the comments and we can all have a look at it and have some fun with this code. And yeah, that's it. Have a good day and see you next time. Bye.